Drugs and alcohol, what they did for me was they gave me an entirely different sense of confidence, and they made me feel more secure with who I was. And I never felt like I was the prettiest or the funniest or the smartest person in my group of friends. So I was very insecure, and drugs and alcohol gave that back to me. Um, it gave me attention and it gave me friends, or at least I thought. My name is Emily Sindoni, and I'm a person in sustained long-term recovery. And for me, that means I haven't used any drugs or alcohol since August 23rd of 2015. So it all started for me probably in my teenage years, and I had a pretty typical childhood. And then in my teenage years, started drinking and experimenting. And at the time, it was just kind of something that you did. I had a lot of friends and we were just drinking at parties, but I can now see where I started off in that world as a very insecure and anxious person. So I think being in that environment and having those feelings kind of coupled together led me to kind of look for attention and acceptance in unhealthy ways. So once I found myself like smoking weed and using cocaine, I definitely clung to that lifestyle a little bit more because I knew that if I wasn't good enough for anything else, like I was good at partying, I could drink a lot, I could smoke a lot. So that kind of party girl reputation, I really clung to, and that just obviously didn't work out in the best of ways. So I started using opiates at I think about 19 years old. So I started using pills and things like that, and then that progressed to using heroin, which I did become an IV user. So drugs and alcohol, what they did for me was they gave me an entirely different sense of confidence, and they made me feel more secure with who I was. And I never felt like I was the prettiest or the funniest or the smartest person in my group of friends. So I was very insecure, and drugs and alcohol gave that back to me. Um, it gave me attention and it gave me friends, or at least I thought that were going to hang out with me and spend time with me, and it made me feel important. I think the exclusivity of that, of being in that small group of friends that are all doing the same thing, it gave me a sense of belonging, and it gave me, at the time, it was what I thought was a positive reputation as, a crazy party girl. And then once I started doing like opiates, it was a little bit different because I had with, drinking and partying and all of that kind of stuff, I had built up so much shame and guilt that once I found opiates, I realized that could just take me away to a totally different world. So I could suppress everything that I had been doing, for 5 to 10 years. And so I really started to cope with a lot of the damage I had done in my earlier years when I started using opiates. My family, throughout all of my use, and even during the times where I tried to find recovery, my family had always been supportive. Up until the last summer, I was in active use, and my family had actually set the boundary and they decided not to take me in. They didn't support me in any way anymore. So my life just really started to hit rock bottom very quickly without any of their support. So I was out on my own. I was broke. I was in an awful abusive relationship, and I didn't really have the resources to get high anymore. So my last use actually ended me into the hospital, and I had nobody by my bedside. I was too ashamed to call anybody, so they discharged me, and then I had to walk home barefoot. And I just remember feeling so stuck because I didn't want to get sober, but I knew that getting high wasn't the answer anymore. I really had to do something. So for me, the only way out of the life that I was living at that time was to go to rehab. So I called and tried to get a bed date, and my family, they were supportive in that end. So they did take me to rehab when I went to Syracuse Behavioral Health in Syracuse. And then from then on, I truly just surrendered to the program because I had done outpatient and I had done detoxes and everything like that. And when I took matters into my own hands, I royally screwed it up. So this treatment episode, I really just did what was recommended to me. So I followed the 28 days. I did a long term, so I did an additional inpatient after that for 6 months, and then I did a halfway house, which brought me to Elmira. So when I have somebody that I'm working with and they are struggling in their inactive use and they're kind of on the edge and they're not sure if they want to get sober, I always think about just taking them exactly the way that they are and exactly what they're doing, and just accepting what's going on in their lives and seeing in what ways I can help them, in what ways I can support them. Most times people are secluded and they don't have a lot of people that do support them. So I just try to, share my love and share support, and just, what is it that you are willing to do to kind of make your life a little bit safer and a little bit healthier today, and kind of go from there. Because I think there is a lot of hope. I always say, if I can do it, you can do it. And I know that is said over and over again, but if I could just give somebody a piece of hope that I have for them, then I would do that a million times over.